Wayne County residents. My name is Tangela Harris and I'm with the RIDE. Today I have the opportunity to talk to Mr. Ficano about Wayne County and the things that he's looking forward to doing in this next term that he's running for. I just have a couple of questions for you. My first question is, earlier today you talked about emergency manager and you discussed the fact that Wayne County will not be getting an emergency manager. One of the biggest problems the residents in Wayne County and in Detroit have is no one is being boisterous about the different things that are going on in our community and that are affecting us. And we want to know if it's possible when you get reelected, if you become more boisterous against the things that are happening in our city, such as the emergency manager.
Sure. I have been loud about it. Unfortunately, it hasn't gotten a lot of attention. I was called to press conferences such with Val Garrett from the AFSCME as well as Bob King, at that time who was president of the UAW, and we stood shoulder to shoulder saying that there should not be an emergency manager in Detroit. We also challenged why the legislature immediately passed a second law once the ballot proposal knocking out the first law emergency manager was decided by the voters, and they came right back and passed another one. So I've been very, very active, and I will continue to be active. Obviously, some people think, well, it's your self-interest because they would look at Wayne County. That's why I was so aggressive in what we did to make sure that we had a plan that the governor even had to sign off on, because they realized that there was nothing they could do about it, because if they could come in, it would be the same story. They would grab the Wayne County assets, and they would run them and they would control them.
Thank you, sir. Also, right now we have a huge problem with water. A lot of people are misled because they don't have knowledge. And the media is doing not a good job as far as informing the people about the different lies that have been put on top of the people's bills over the last decades. Do you think that privatization of the water company is the best route for the people? And not the water department itself, but for the people?
No, I don't. And in fact, what I've done is I filed, as Wayne County, we filed a motion in the court asking the bankruptcy proceedings, asking that there be a mediator appointed to try to make sure that there, at least a public authority that's going to be with the water department. And there was a couple of things that we have been pushing or trying to stipulate to. Number one, the asset of the water department should be owned by the city of Detroit. Number two, that if you privatize it, the problem you have is that they have, the private company has an obligation to its shareholders, which under our capitalistic system, that's what they're supposed to do. The problem is that there are repairs that have to be done to the infrastructure, no matter who ends up running the water system. And a private company would accelerate it because they have a monopoly. Because as soon as they can do the repairs in a very short time, because they know they can pass the costs on immediately to the ratepayers. That means the bill will disproportionately go up at a very high rate before the water department could really normally do at a slower pace. So I have filed a motion. Wayne County has filed a motion seeking that there be mediation, because they did mediation for the art, they did mediation for the pensions, and we said that it should be owned by the city of Detroit, and that there also should be a fund that should be set up for those that can't pay. Because one of the issues that has come up is that there's been a situation of the water department suddenly turning off a lot of the homes and things like that. There's a distinction between those that may have the ability to pay and they choose not to, but there's a real distinction, unfortunately, that there are a lot of people that just can't afford paying their water bills. And so just like what DTE has done and some of the others, there's a separate revenue that is set up to cover those that really need it in terms of their utility payments. What I'm advocating for in the court proceedings, and since it's mediation, we're on a quarter and not going to talk about it in the chambers in our meetings, but I've been advocating for ownership of Detroit and that there has to be a separate revenue stream or pot of money that has to be set aside for those that can't afford their the water bill.
Yes, Michigan Welfare Rights and the Water Brigade and several other organizations have offered the idea of just putting in a small checkbox on the bill where other residents can donate $1 or $2 towards this cause, and it's come up back and forth in mediation. And so that was going to be my next question: how did you feel about that? But you just answered it, and I thank you so kindly for that.
Okay.
My next question is: it's the summertime. Our youth don't have any, they have absolutely nothing to do. Youth jobs are depleted. Parents just can't afford to send 2, 3, 4 kids to a program throughout the summer. And that's really going to put a strain on the residents, because we're going to have kids who are doing what they should be able to do, such as walk the streets. What are we going to do as far as the sheriffs and the police department when it comes to policing these youth? Because we do have some that are out of control and they do need to be policed, but you then also have some children out here who are just walking the streets because they have nothing to do. What are you setting up any type of steps so that our officers will know the difference in the average kid who's just out here enjoying the weather with nothing to do, won't get caught up in that policing? Because statistics shows that once a child comes in contact with police, it's kind of like a snowball effect, and we're trying to avoid that.
I think what you should do is the Michigan Chronicle just had a big article about Wayne County, and its program has won national awards for what it's done with the young people and keeping them out of the criminal justice system. The prior model used to be set up where if a youngster had a contact with law enforcement, normally they'd be brought into the system, they would have to go through the system, and even though, I'm not talking about people who murder or rape or something like that, but there are those that really are just coming up against the criminal justice system, and instead of them going through the full length of being dragged through the juvenile, it's called petition, the referee, and everything else, that immediately we have a program that where we have a number of service providers that take the youngsters in, they work with them, and if they work with the service provider, they never come in contact with the juvenile system, and there's no record or anything like that in the process. This is one award in New York. City of New York was just in here, just was looking at how the model set up for them adopting it as well. Your viewers should look at Michigan Chronicle Digital. There's a large spread about how Wayne County has actually won a number of national awards for exactly what you're advocating.
Thank you. My last question, sir.
Yes.
The people that are being locked up, is there any way possible that we can make it mandatory that if you are sentenced to 90 days or more, that you have to get your GED before you can be released? Education is a huge problem. And just recently, we found out that pre-K is may or may not be available this coming fall, and so education, pardon me? Yeah, Head Start. Education is the key, and it keeps people from becoming criminals, because people who are educated have the opportunity to get a job and a career, and so it affects us all. It keeps people from breaking into you and I at home, and it keeps people from going to jail. And so the majority of our population here in Detroit, they have no education. So I'm just wondering, is there a way that we can tackle that by starting with them being educated inside of the system?
Well, there are programs that are set up for them. Part of their probation or part of their reporting back to the court many times involves education, that they're supposed to be put in the programs for that. But this is a broader perspective. One of the problems you have is that the current administration in Lansing has chosen not to put as much money in education as what probably is necessary. Let's face it, it's cheaper to have programs like education than it is to house someone in Jackson Prison.
Yes.
It costs more money to house someone in Jackson Prison today than it does to send them to Harvard Law School. So the formula is skewed as to what's happening. And I've been a big advocate ever since I've been sheriff of programs, especially education. Now, the county doesn't touch on education as much like DPS at some of those, but I have raised about $400,000 in nonprofit money, raised it myself, and we have given thousands of scholarships, especially now this touches from high school on up. We've had other programs where we've gone into churches and given computers to the church centers to try to work with the youngsters so that they start acquiring some of those skills and become comfortable with it. Because not everybody can afford to have a laptop at their home, or a tablet or anything like that, or even an iPhone. And so these are programs that we've instituted and continued on to do to make sure that you have the best chance of not even kissing the criminal justice system, staying out of it completely.
Now, I got to hit you with this one, and I'm going to leave you alone.
Sure.
But I have to ask about the jail.
Sure.
So many tax dollars, so many. And it's my understanding that there's a push for Detroit not to even have a jail, for it to go to Mound because it's a bad look, for it to be downtown, because certain people have property down there,
Sure, let me.
You know what I'm trying to say.
Here's what it is about the jail. It's pretty simple, and I'll explain it to you. When the jail was built, there was a bid that was put out. They call it a project manager. They build jails all over the world. They're paid to run the project. We haven't lost the money. There seems to be this myth that this money is gone or whatever it is. So what they did is they signed a contract to build the jail for $220 million, $300 million when they had to do the environmental cleanups and everything else. About a third way through, what has happened is that the project manager came. Up to that point, they had been going to what we call this building authority. Said yes, it's on time and it's on budget. It's on time and it's on budget. About a third of the way through, they came to us and said, you know what, it's probably going to cost more money than we originally projected to finish the jail. Now, government usually has one or two options. Either, and what they do most of the time is say, sure, go ahead, let's eat it. I took the political heat for saying, no, you signed the contract, stop, I am suing you, which we've done. We've entered into litigation. And so suddenly now, during the litigation, that company has come back and said they think they might be able to build it now closer to the number that they indicated originally in the contract, and or there's an opportunity if the land value has gone up so much that we could move the complex out to Mound. There's a 200-page report. It's on the website. Go to waynecounty.com, and in the next 3 weeks, the Board of Commissioners will make a decision about which option they want to look at. But the jail is going to get built. I had the political courage to say, stop, we're going to sue you because you said you're going to build it for this amount, and you haven't. If suddenly have come back, well, let's face it, all the critics and opponents don't want it to be solved, especially before the election. But the same as they said that Wayne County wouldn't be able to solve its fiscal problems, and that the state would never approve it, and that the commission would never approve it. They kept going on TV, the plan is dead on arrival. The state approved it, and the Board of Commissioners have approved it. The same as what I'm saying here. There are two options, because
which one do you go with?
We're gonna do our due diligence. It depends on the rate of the bonds and when they go out to market, which option would be chosen.
Thank you kindly, sir.
Okay, sure enough.
Have a great day.
You too.